Hi, I'm Katherine Nwanorue, and this is SEO in 2024.
Katherine, what's your number one SEO tip for 2024?
My number one SEO tip for 2024 is don't underestimate the power of linking to subcategories from the parent category page.
Understood. Okay. And you're not talking about just from the top nav menu, are you?
No, I'm not. So basically, generally, most websites, you would link the subcategories on the menu side under the category, right? So this essentially means that the subcategory and other pages on the menu is linked on all pages on the website. And this signals that these pages are pretty much important. Now, some websites could stop here, but I think you can take it a step further by linking these subcategories to the actual page of the parent category page.
Okay, so essentially internal reciprocal linking. So linking from the main category page to the subcategory and then subcategory page back to the main category.
Exactly, yes. So this basically serves two purposes. So rather than stopping at the menu links, you can link on the parent category page because, okay, so for one, the category page itself is a really authoritative page. So when you maybe get these relevant keywords of subcategory page and mention them on the category page itself and add links to these subcategories and vice versa, it actually helps you to improve rankings and clicks in most cases. So we're talking about taking advantage of the link equity in this case. And there's also another reason you could, in short, there's also another reason you can probably do this. And that reason is it helps with conversion. So it helps you to move the visitor down the sales funnel. So let's say, for instance, you have a category page and you have some content on that category page that recommends a specific type of subcategory, like, okay, consider this product. Users can actually click on that to go to that recommended subcategory where they are likely to convert. So we are talking about improving your conversion. So all this translates to better rankings, better clicks, engagement, and in most cases, conversions.
And you're obviously talking about having links within the main body content, aren't you?
Yes, the main body content itself.
So does having links within the main body content have a measurably more positive impact than having links within the nav menu?
Okay, I can't really say that it has more value or it has less value, but I know I've seen some really positive results with just doing this. So there were cases with a wholesale swimwear brand we worked on where there were subcategory pages. They were linked to the main menu bar as usual, but they were not mentioned on the category page or linked back. So we did this thing where we used mentioned relevant keywords and added links to specific subcategory pages. So within a few weeks of just doing that, we saw really impressive results. So we are talking about over 710 new keywords gained in these specific pages and improving rankings in like 500 keywords. So at that time, the new keywords we gained for those specific pages were like 43% of the total keywords. So it was a really big deal. And there are also cases where we were seeing improvements in rankings on pages we were not even ranking for in the first place. So these pages, we had basically no ranks for them. And within a short time, they quickly went to the top 10 and top 3. There were also some instances where there was no mention of these keywords anywhere on the website at all, but we started ranking for some of these keywords. So I'm talking about keywords like swimsuit wear under $20, size 24 swimwear. Those things we didn't really optimize for, but we saw great improvement in rankings just by doing this.
Okay, sorry to harp back to the nav menu. Just to clarify that your preference would be to have links on both the nav menu and the body content, yeah?
Exactly, yes. So you just don't have to put it on the menu alone. You can go a step further to make it more meaningful to the user and help them understand why they should visit this page in the first place.
Okay, and you mentioned keywords as well. So how do you go about establishing what keywords you should have within those links?
Okay, so basically, if you have subcategories about, so in this case, let me use, for instance, plus size women's swimwear, and maybe you have a category on women's swimwear generally. So the subcategories are maybe plus size or swimwear for juniors or stuff like that. So you can basically do a keyword research and target keywords with relatively low difficulty and higher volume, and they should be relevant. So you could target, let's say, women's plus size wear or plus size wear for women, swimwear for women, depending on what makes sense in that context. So you can take this, you don't even have to stuff it up the whole page. Just 1 or 2 references of that is enough, and add a link with valuable information on, okay, this is why this subcategory exists. And if you want to check this out, if you want this, we have this on this page. So that is enough to do the trick, to do the magic, to do the results, anything.
To do the magic. I like it. Yeah.
Yes.
And so just to clarify, you've seen measurable, significant improvements in rankings because of this, you think, and you've isolated this as being the reason. So there hasn't been any other backlinks built. There hasn't been any other site improvements. So it's got to be the internal links that have caused this ranking improvement.
Yes. So because we have this thing where we make changes one at a time on the website, and from a few weeks after we made that change, we had not made any other changes on the website at that point. And we really saw this happening. I mean, it's a really impressive result. On some website, it might not really make that great impact, but on this one, we are seeing tremendous results that was really so easy to pinpoint.
And how will you go about determining the pages that you want to try this on? I mean, do you actually isolate subcategories that are perhaps already ranking maybe second, third page in Google to select that as perhaps the easiest opportunity for a quick win?
Okay, so for this, we focused on subcategory pages that we are not really getting any links. So we are talking maybe 2 links in 30 days. So that was not really much. And they had really low rankings. So I'm talking about rankings in 20th position, 24th. So we focused on that, about like, let's say 4 to 5 per page, and really implemented this.
And all pages were indexed before?
Yes, they were all indexed. They had content. They were literally the same with the ones that were performing well. They just were not mentioned on that specific page.
And would this strategy also assist with pages getting indexed, or do you have to do something else to get the pages indexed?
So for pages to get indexed is basically more about making sure that the content is valuable as well, making sure that it's not disallowed from crawling, and making sure that there is no index tag, those things, canonicals, and the rest of them. So I'm not sure that internal linkings particularly can help a page to get indexed if, let's say, for instance, there's a no index tag on that page. So internal linkings is like an additional push, but not something that can make search engines to index a page. It's like an additional improvement in performance of an already indexed page.
Do you believe that there should be a certain maximum number of links on a page? Because obviously with nav menus, there can be perhaps even over 100 links within the nav menu, and then you've got the body content as well. So do you try and limit the number of links ever per page?
Okay, so basically there is no set of number of links I really have in mind. I know in the past some people has recommended having 100 links or fewer than 100 links on a page, but that was mostly because search engines at that time were just crawling and indexing, I think, 100 kilobytes per page. But currently that limitation doesn't exist right now, so there is no set number of pages, but rather I would really suggest going with what makes sense. So don't overwhelm the user, go with how this could help provide additional information or help the user to really understand it, rather than just filling up these pages. So like you said, if you take into account the menu links and the links on the footer and the rest of them, this can really add up. But on the page content itself, what I would really advise is to just go with what makes sense to the user.
Okay. So no fixed number of internal links that you're trying to fix into the each page as you publish. You don't have a strategy or a policy such as every new page that's published, it's got to have 5 internal links within it.
No, I don't have. People have recommended certain things, but I don't really have, personally, I don't have a particular set number of links to add on a page.
Okay. Are there any other internal links strategies that you'd like to talk about? Maybe links on other pages or positioning of links, for example?
Positioning of links is a really controversial one, especially because of the first priority link argument that keeps coming up, where if you have 2 pages on a website, on a page, that the first could probably be prioritized. But as Google has mentioned over and over again, there is no set rule for this. They could go with this today and tomorrow it could be something else. So for linking multiple pages on a website, like a specific URL multiple times on a page, I don't really think there is any impact or effect or negative or positive effect on that. So I still stand by just going with what makes sense essentially to the user at this point.
And what about the automation? of the insertion of internal links? Because obviously you can have tools that identify keyword phrases and automatically link them to certain pages. Would you ever do that, or do you just prefer to do it manually?
Okay, so it depends on the size of the link. The size of the website in this case. So if you're dealing with a smaller website, it makes sense to probably do this without third-party tools. You can quickly do this without third-party tools. So you can quickly go to your Google Search Console, get a list of your authoritative pages, the categories that are really ranking well, put that into a spreadsheet, and then go to your search browser, use site operators to find related pages, and then interlink this. That's for smaller website. But if you're dealing with, let's say, a medium website, you might really want to speed things up. So you can use tools like, let's say, Screaming Frog to run a custom search. They have this really awesome feature of custom search where you can find mentions of specific keywords on a website. You can also use advanced features like regex, searching with regex, searching for keywords that don't have an anchor tag, which means they don't have a link on them. You can also exclude keywords that actually have internal links on them. But when you're dealing with a larger website, in this case with millions of pages, it doesn't really make sense to do this a bit manually or put in this link yourself. So you could use automation tools like, I know Inlinks is a really good one, Inlinks. I haven't used it personally, but people I know have spoken highly of it. So you can use it to automatically find internal linking opportunities and automatically add these to specific areas of your website.
Okay, and you've given an e-commerce site as an example of a website that you can do this on. And I get part of the internal linking strategy and internal content strategy is actually obviously defining the pages that you want to be ranked, but also determining the pages perhaps that you don't want to be ranked, perhaps light pages or maybe certain categories or different tags. What are your thoughts on types of pages that you wouldn't want to be ranked, so you wouldn't want to link to within your own site?
Okay, so it depends on these specific pages like you mentioned. So sometimes it could be a page that is a product or a category that is retired. But then again, if you retire a category, it doesn't make sense to add that to the website, to link that for you to rank on that. So also out of stock products, it doesn't also make sense to rank for that, because if searchers come to your website and almost all products on a specific category is out of stock, it wouldn't really create a good user experience. So in this case, you might prioritize more of pages you have in stock, pages that are available, and pages that you probably have a higher profit margin for those, or you think they will really make much sense to present to the users than other pages.
Okay, it's a good point. So if you've identified an out-of-stock page or a retired product page, would you try and remove all the internal links to that page?
Not really. If it depends. So if we are talking about an expired product that does not really exist anymore at this point, it might make sense to remove some of the internal links and then create a page where you can, where if users hit this expired page, they can give them more information like, oh, we've retired this product and this is why we are doing it. And if you need related products like this and this, so here is a list of the related products. So you could remove some mentions of internal links to this expired page if it's really gone for good. But if you're talking about a product that is temporarily unavailable, so we're talking about maybe not available like for this month or not available in a few weeks, it wouldn't make sense to remove those internal links. So what I'm literally saying is, if you're optimizing, it makes sense to optimize pages that are really available, products that are available, over those that are out of stock. But if you already have those that are out of stock as internal links and you know they're still coming back, then don't remove them, just keep them as it is.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time on internal links in 2024?
Okay, so when it comes to internal linking, one thing I would really think is ineffective is not prioritizing or not giving much emphasis on user intent. So in most cases, like we mentioned, you could add links to a website, like to a page, and it doesn't really make much sense to the user intent at that point. So let's say a user hits a category page on, let's say, fitness gear, and you're adding links to, like we said, a subcategory that has been retired, or even your resources page. In this case, it doesn't make much sense because it won't really help the user move down the funnel. So at this point, they want content on how to use this gear, specific types of gear for particular reasons, or even product pairings. So it would make sense to really think of the user intent. What is the user trying to achieve? What can possibly give the user additional information? So you could add links to where they can get additional context on any of this.
Katherine Nwanorue is an SEO specialist at Fusion Inbound. You can find her over at techseojournal.com. Katherine, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2024.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2024, the book, over at seoin2024.com.